What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Danielle Holland, and I am back with another true crime video. And today we're going to be speaking about the strange disappearance of 28-year-old Kevin Graves. Now, Kevin disappeared from the Electric Forest Music Festival back in 2018, which is an incredibly popular festival that is a wildly unique experience. The festival is held on over 2,000 acres, so it's a very large area known as the Double JJ Resort, and tens of thousands of people attend the event that is commonly referred to as the modern day Woodstock. And that is likely a part of the reason that Kevin's disappearance seemingly was not taken seriously, and getting to the bottom of what happened to him has been a challenge. With the use of psychedelics amongst other drugs and just the sheer amount of attendees, it's made credible tips and questioning very difficult. And since the yearly festival just happened only a few weeks ago when I'm posting this, I have been tagged in numerous posts trying to raise awareness about Kevin's case. And so that is what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into the details, I first want to say a huge thank you to Our Health for partnering with me on today's video. As someone that struggles with anxiety, sleeping, burnout, all the things can be a huge problem for me, and the Our Health app has been a massive lifesaver. Our is an all-in-one app that helps to support your well-being with thousands of meditations, breath work, which is very beneficial by the way, storytelling and more that are all created and taught by therapists and coaches. I'm able to take a break for myself throughout the day and before bed to help wind down my brain, get to a place of peace and rest. And if you're stubborn like me, you can even set reminders in the app so you have a third party saying, hey, guess what? It is time to take a moment for yourself. Instead of endlessly scrolling through multiple other apps and platforms hoping to find something that resonates with me, because things like this are such a personal experience, Aura Health has asked me a handful of questions to help personalize my experience. I can easily find guides that I enjoy and follow them, and the variety ensures that I always have something to look forward to when I need a moment to myself or need a bit of motivation to push me through the day. I have been listening to the Ultimate Deep Sleep Meditation with Stephen Webb on repeat. You guys, his voice is so soothing. It is nature sounds and soft music, and he guides you to relax all the muscles in your body, which is a trick that I honestly think is like absolute gold when it comes to relaxation. I make it only a few minutes and I'm out. I also have started kind of diving into the storytelling side of the app, and oh my goodness, you guys, you feel like you're being transported to a whimsical forest or some beautiful place far away for just a moment, and it's great. We live in a very fast-paced world. It is like hustle does not stop, and it's very easy to neglect your needs. So I challenge each and every one of you to take a few minutes for yourself every single day using Our Health and see the difference that it makes. A huge thank you to Our Health for supporting me on my journey of well-being and sleep and supporting this channel. You guys can get started with Aura and save 25% when you visit aurahealth.io/Danielle or click the link in the description box below. Now on to the details of today's case. Kevin is described by his father as a great kid that had typical ups and downs. He was a very independent child growing up. He would often test boundaries because who doesn't? But at the end of the day, he always did the best he could and had a great family that he knew he could rely on. He grew up in Michigan alongside 3 siblings. He was very close to his entire family and maintained this into adulthood. So that was kind of like the rock that Kevin relied on. Kevin was the kind of person that always had his hand in something at all times. He was always ready to learn something new, and according to his father, Gary, he would never forget it, saying that if you taught Kevin to dig a hole a certain way, he was going to dig it like that for the rest of his life. He was always taking on new challenges. He learned to be a mechanic. He started construction, everything from installing windows to roofing to carpentry, you name it, Kevin knew it. And he also loved to share his knowledge. One of the best things about Kevin, according to everyone that knows him, is his heart of gold. Kevin didn't halfway do anything. He put his all into everything, and this included his relationships. He loved people fully and without question. He was a very sensitive, emotional person. The people in his life meant everything to him, and it was so important to have those relationships. His father said, quote, he would do anything for anybody, all of his friends and everything. Everybody loved him. At the time of Kevin's disappearance, he was in a relationship with a woman, and he had been living with her in Oakland County, Michigan. So this is an area just outside of Detroit. In 2018, the couple decided to head with 2 friends to the Electric Forest. Kevin was definitely someone who enjoyed that type of atmosphere. That was his kind of culture. He had been one to always be known to smoke weed. Like, he just wanted to vibe out and have a good time. But his parents were a bit apprehensive because of what everyone knows about the festival and its connection to drug use. There also seems to be quite a few dangers that comes with that territory. Electric Forest does have a history of crimes occurring along with disappearances, which is nothing unheard of. A festival that happens at pretty much all of them. Dad said, quote, "I knew there would be drugs and stuff up there. I told him, be careful. Don't get yourself hooked up on something that you're going to regret." He said, "No, I'm just going to go up there and have a good time, Dad." Kevin repeatedly reassured his father that everything was going to be fine, and even suggested that they head to the family cabin when he got back to do some construction projects. Unfortunately, Kevin never came home from the festival. Wednesday, June 27th, 2018, Kevin, his girlfriend, and the two friends they went with headed to the festival, and it was a massive event. To give you an idea of how many people attend this event, when it first started, I believe the very first year, there were over 30,000 attendees at this festival, and it just continued to grow to the point where I believe the year before, in 2017, they decided there were so many people that wanted to come that they wanted to split the festival up into 2 weekends to try to control the crowds. The festival was also on land that is commonly used for camping, and so it was very common for people to head there early, set up their campsite, spend a few days chilling there, and then get ready for a weekend full of music and fun. And every day that Kevin was there, he seemed to be having a great time. He was still in contact with his family on a daily basis, constantly speaking to his mom and his sister, ensuring them that he was safe, the whole 9 yards, up until Sunday, July 1st, the last day of the festival, and the day before Kevin was supposed to come home. Now, this particular day, his family ended up receiving, starting very early in the morning, a strange string of texts. The first text came in at 7:55 a.m. to his father, and the text said, quote, "I love you so much for your service, Dad. Thank you for your service. I'll be able to pay you back some now or someday." Nobody had any idea what on earth Kevin was talking about. The only thing they could really chalk this all up to was the fact that Kevin's father had been a Marine, and it was something that Kevin really respected him for, looked up to him about, to the point where he got a Marine tattoo in honor of his dad and also his grandfather, since both of them served. But this was kind of an odd time for Kevin to mention something like that, and the wording just seemed a little bit jumbled and confusing. So around noon that same day, his mother decided to reach out to him and check on him and see how he was doing. At this point, it was around 12:08 p.m. and she texted Kevin saying, "Hey, are you having a good time?" But the only thing that she got in response was the word "nothing." Now, obviously, that's not even a response that makes any sense, and so she began to worry at this point and was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she anxiously checked her phone a minute later when a response came in, so we're talking immediate response, hoping for some clarity, but instead she yet again received a text with a single word of nothing. 2 hours go by, and Kevin sent another text to his sister, and this text said, quote, "Everything is good. I love you the most." All communication with Kevin stopped. But no one really thought anything about it. They're like, oh, those were some weird texts, but no one really read too much into it until the following day, Monday, July 2nd, when they received a very unexpected call from Kevin's girlfriend. Because keep in mind, this is the day they both were supposed to be heading back home together. They've been living together for 3 years at this point. Now, his girlfriend proceeded to inform his family that she couldn't find Kevin. She began to explain to them that she actually hadn't seen him since the day before, around the time that he sent out those bizarre texts, and then everyone lost all contact with him. She claimed that she and Kevin got into an argument and that he had been acting odd all week long, and it just seems like he exploded and it all came to a head on that last day of the festival. So after their argument, he decided to go back to the tent, leave the concert, cool off for a while and rest, while the group continued to enjoy the festival. She claimed that at some point later on, she decided to go back to the tent to check on him, but Kevin wasn't there. Now, nobody was immediately concerned. He's an adult. He's fully capable of taking care of himself. They got into an argument. It was not out of the realm of possibilities that he just decided to go and enjoy some music on his own, go and vibe out by himself. When he still didn't come back after a while, that is when she started to get worried. She said that at this point, she, along with the two others in their group, went out to search for him, a task that was not going to be easy considering the insane amount of space and the people that were at the event. So after hours and hours of searching, they said they came back completely empty-handed. And so by the following morning, when they were hoping to wake up to Kevin and he still wasn't there, that's when she decided to call his parents. Now, she ended up telling them that she had to come back home at this point, that she had looked for Kevin all that she could, but she had 2 children that she had responsibility of, and so she couldn't stay any longer, which they totally understood and were like, you know what, we get it, come on back, and we'll kind of come back together in a little bit and continue efforts to find him. Everyone hoped it wouldn't even get to that, and somehow he would end up finding his way home. So at some point that week, his family went back out to Oceana County where the festival was held to try and look for Kevin. They were supposed to go out with his girlfriend, but I don't know if they just couldn't communicate with her or what exactly was going on. But when they arrived, they were able to find out that his girlfriend had already been there looking for him with her dad. The 2 of them had gone up just themselves. So when they realized that, everyone joined in efforts, but ultimately they weren't able to find anything. Authorities questioned Kevin's girlfriend to try to figure out what was going on because, as I stated, given the circumstances, this is a very, very tricky situation. It's really hard to kind of locate people who may have been there. There's thousands and thousands of people. You can't track them all down. A lot of people are under the use of drugs that make their statements questionable. You don't know if anyone has a very clear idea of what had happened. But Kevin's girlfriend said pretty much the same story that she told his parents, that they had an argument and he headed back to the tent. But she also stated what the argument had been about. His girlfriend claimed that he had been acting paranoid all week long and had been accusing her of a bunch of very strange things, like ratting him out to the FBI. What about? I have absolutely no idea. He also accused her of infidelity. Apparently, he believed that for some reason his girlfriend was having a sexual relationship with the male friend that they had gone to the festival with. They went with another male and another female, and this seemed to cause a big problem. Now, I have no idea if these claims were denied. I do know, however, that his family believed at this point it was very possible that he may have walked in on something that made him as upset as they claimed he was. And this was backed up by a group staying in a tent beside them. According to these witnesses, they saw the argument between Kevin and the rest of the group he was with, and they saw as he walked away crying and hysterical. So at the very least, this portion of what happened seems to be corroborated by some outside source. Now, right away, Michigan State Police also joined in on the search efforts along with Shiawassee Search and Rescue because it was going to take a lot of people to search this area. The Double JJ Resort, as I stated, it was over 2,000 acres. Some of it was dangerous terrain, heavily wooded areas. There were multiple bodies of water. So they brought in all the resources they possibly could. There were scent dogs brought in. They had divers to make sure all of the different ponds and things were checked. The entire place was strategically searched. There were also volunteers that came out to help cover as much ground as possible. But ultimately, nothing at all was found, which in my opinion isn't really that much of a surprise. While the organization behind the event did not assist in the search, they did claim that the cleanup after the event was meticulous. If you have ever been to any sort of festival or even just a concert of any kind, it is usually an absolute disaster afterwards, especially when you have a festival like this. People will leave just like their whole tents behind as if it's nothing. Coolers, there are so many items and so much trash absolutely everywhere. Cleanup crews had been on every single inch of that property, cleaning up behind everyone, and they hadn't found anything to suggest something had happened to Kevin. One downside to this is that most things left after festivals like this are treated like trash. Not everyone has the time to stop and sift through everything and kind of determine if it's something that needs to be kept or thrown away, because there is just an overwhelming amount of things. And so while most of Kevin's belongings were in fact left behind, his wallet and his phone had been on him when he walked off, and those 2 items were never located. I'm not sure if there's a lost and found of sorts, if items like that immediately go somewhere to be held in case someone reaches out, but I worry that if anything like that had been found, it may have just been thrown away with everything else. And pretty quickly, Michigan State Police decided, you know what, we've searched everything we can, we don't know what else to do. So they handed the case over to Oakland County, where Kevin was reported missing and where he lived. So they were at this point point completely hands off of the case. And this is where it seemed to become apparent to Kevin's family that his disappearance wasn't really being taken all too seriously, which unfortunately he would not be the only person that has disappeared from a festival where authorities and everyone just kind of shrugs it off saying, yeah, well, they were out having fun, they did some drugs, probably made some crazy decisions and decided to head off somewhere to do something on their own, which of course isn't out of the realm of possibilities, but usually that means a lot less effort is put into their case. And that's exactly what seemed to happen here. Kevin's family was told that he was an adult. He was allowed to up and leave if that is what he wanted. Sergeant David Bach saying, quote, and he was the lead investigator, I have no evidence to support in any way that anything nefarious happened to him. My feeling is he walked away from there. His goal was to be a part of the lore of the festival of people who disappeared. But Kevin's family absolutely disagreed with this. He made plans with his dad for the following week. He was actually the one to come up with them. He also had been acting completely normal prior to leaving for the festival. They even talked to him for the few days before the festival started when he was just out there camping and he seemed totally fine. And then there was a sudden change on the day he disappeared and all of these strange text messages. They believed, even if for some reason he did decide to run off, that he eventually would get in contact with his family. They were something that had been such an important, solid centerpiece of his entire life. Even his girlfriend stated that they were upset and they had argued, but even that being said, if he didn't reach out to her, she also believed he would get in touch with somebody else. They all believed at this point something had to have happened to Kevin that prevented him from reaching out, prevented his phone from being on, prevented him from coming back. So his family continued to push and reach out to the lead investigator to try to get answers. But another problem was the fact that it seemed the Oakland County lead investigator had not really done a whole lot to look into Kevin's disappearance. For example, Kevin's sister ended up reaching out to him and found out that he wasn't even made aware that Kevin and his girlfriend hadn't gone to this festival alone. Now, I don't know if these two friends were questioned by state police, but once they were questioned, the male friend that they had gone to the festival with told authorities something that changed the story entirely. He claimed that he was actually the last one to see Kevin. Allegedly, at some point after the argument or sometime around there, Kevin and this male friend decided to go and see one of the concerts, just the two of them. But at some point during this time, he claimed that Kevin started to act erratically. He was freaking out. He was trying to rip his wristbands for the event off. And eventually, Kevin just walked off, leaving his male friend behind. And so this is entirely different than the story that was originally given by Kevin's girlfriend. And eventually, Kevin's girlfriend gave a similar story to what this male friend said, totally contradicting what she had originally said as well. And she told this to Kevin's sister. Now, his sister has claimed that she was told by this girlfriend that Kevin did in fact go with the male friend to one of the concerts, that this male friend was the last person to see him. And she claimed that while they went off to this concert, she was actually the one to go back to the tent to take a nap. They all had plans to meet up again after this, but she eventually found out that Kevin had freaked out and walked off on his own. So we've got two completely different stories of what could have potentially happened, and whether that can be chalked up to them having a good time, maybe smoking some weed, not remembering things right, or maybe like the stress of it all was kind of causing problems, I don't know. But regardless, his family was upset because they felt they weren't getting the real story potentially of what happened, and those details are incredibly important. And then within a few weeks of Kevin's disappearance, his girlfriend suddenly reached out to his family to let them know that she was packing up his things at their home, and this just seemed to up the tension. They already felt like they weren't getting the full story, and then it felt like she was kind of washing her hands of Kevin, and this was upsetting. Don't know many details, but at this point, it was very well known that Kevin's family was starting to question some things. The story at this point was also circulating online. Kevin was all over the news, all over social media, and strangers were also starting to question Kevin's girlfriend. And so a lot of things were being said about her and to her, and it was upsetting her. So she eventually cut off Kevin's entire family, blocking them on social media. And according to Kevin's sister, this just caused even more tension. It was just a really unfortunate situation. And Kevin's sister said that she does believe that Kevin's girlfriend just felt attacked, that she was reading a whole bunch of horrible things online about herself. She had 2 kids to protect, but his sister was hoping, she had always remained civil with her, was trying to be helpful. She was listening, hearing her out. And so she was hoping she could at least maintain contact with her, because this was kind of the last person connected connected to Kevin, one of the last people to be with him. But unfortunately, that just didn't happen. And these issues continue to just kind of work against Kevin's family when it came to getting to the bottom of what happened to him. His phone plan was tied to his girlfriend's family, and his family was relying on the phone records to try to figure out more of a timeline. They wanted to see, did he call anybody else? Like, if he did decide to walk off, did he maybe reach out to someone to come and pick him up? No one that knew him had reached out and suggested this happened, but they wanted to see if there was someone else that could potentially have information. But that required them to ask his girlfriend for access to those phone records. And unfortunately, they ended up being told no. I am assuming that the lead investigator very likely gathered this information for themselves and for the investigation. So maybe it is somewhere, but I've just not seen it addressed otherwise. All I have seen stated is that at some point that day, that is when all of his communication on his phone cut off. And the only other piece of potentially helpful information that was kind of found during the investigation was in regards to money. Now, at some point between 1 and 2 p.m. that day of July 1st, 2018, around the same time that he sent the last text message off to his sister, Kevin pulled $200 out of a shared bank account that he had with his girlfriend. Now, there's not a lot of information out there about this. I don't know if this was after the argument, before the argument. It's really hard to tell if maybe this was money taken out for a specific purpose, or maybe it was just taken out to prepare for the day ahead, being at the last day of the concert to get drinks and food and all these different things. So it's an important piece of information, but I just am not sure exactly what it may necessarily mean. And while people were very upset about everything happening with Kevin's girlfriend and feeling like they weren't getting a lot of answers, the lead investigator did come forward and say that his girlfriend had done nothing wrong. She had been very cooperative with him the entire time and had basically just complained that she didn't want anything to do with Kevin's family anymore. She believed at this point that he had simply walked away from her, and she was upset about it. And there were a lot of different things being said by people in Kevin's family and questioning her, and I guess she just didn't like it, so she decided to move on. The investigator continued saying that she had absolutely no motive. She helped out in the searches, and she did absolutely everything that she could. And so Kevin's family just continued to search for answers. The theories at this point were absolutely all over the place, as I'm sure you can imagine. Authorities believed that he just walked away. There's the possibility that he maybe met up with someone, or when you're at a event like that, you could just leave with a total stranger. His friends even suggested that maybe he left to start a grow farm in California, because that is something that he spoke about. That was a dream of his. He had his medicinal card, that was something that he wanted to dive into. Now, obviously, there was also the possibility that he had dabbled in some more serious drugs and it went badly. If he was in a bad headspace, it is a little bit more likely that he would potentially partake in something like that. And to add to this mix of being in a potentially bad headspace, Kevin had also stopped taking his bipolar medication about 2 months prior to this because of the side effects. So it's also possible that he was having a manic episode and maybe something happened to him after he wandered off. But his family said a lot of these different things didn't sit well with him, because if he had wandered off, this is a town of 400 people. While there were definitely a lot of people at the festival, had he wandered off of the festival grounds, and since he wasn't, found there, it's a huge possibility. They believed it was possible someone would have found him otherwise outside of this. They searched 15 some miles along the highway. People in that area hunt all the time. And so the fact that his remains or something weren't found, had something like that happened, just made them feel there was something more to it. And this brings up the possibility that he was still potentially alive. There were sightings left and right. People were seeing him at local gas stations in the neighboring town of Muskegon. People were claiming to see him panhandling in the weeks after his disappearance in local towns. All of these different people were claiming all of these different things, but from my understanding, they weren't able to confirm anything. And even to this day, on the Facebook page dedicated to Kevin, you see pictures all over the place of people saying, hey, I saw this person in this area. Is this possibly Kevin? And then possibly the strangest theory came into the family's DMs a few months after Kevin went missing. All of a sudden, his family was flooded with at least 100 messages about an organization called the 12 Tribes. Now, some people call it a cult. I have no personal knowledge of it, so I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but it's described as a fundamentalist Christian group, and they have got multiple communes all over. And there was actually one commune in Michigan. And this group, what they were kind of known for is they have this double-decker bus. They actually have a few of them, and they will go to recruit people or look for what they call lost souls at festivals, concerts, and other large events. People that are usually like struggling with something, whether that be religion or mental health, people that are looking to get off of drugs. Their communities are apparently drug-free, they claim, and essentially what they do is they bring these people in and give them food and board, space for healing in return for work within the community. So that's kind of how they grow their organization. And there were a few things suggesting that this could be a possibility. One of those things was the fact that Kevin was atheist, and his sister, who is incredibly religious, had sent him a video the day before he left for the festival that was about explaining God to an atheist. And she said that she wasn't trying to force him into believing anything, but she was curious what his thoughts were on the video. And it was like an hour long, but she wanted him to just check it out. And she was fully expecting him not to watch it. But apparently the day he left to the festival, he's like, hey, I watched that video you sent me and I want to talk to you about it. And so this was a huge shock for her. He was struggling with his bipolar disorder, if he was struggling with his relationship, or pretty much anything. A lot of people, even non-religious, during times like that will turn to religion or spirituality to guide them. And so it was very possible that he would fit into this group of lost souls. So while he was atheist and a lot of people said he would never go off with a Christian fundamentalist group, that is definitely something that could be a possibility. He had also just gotten into an argument with his long-term girlfriend and was under the belief that she was cheating on him. So that would be yet another reason that he may be interested in just saying, forget it, I'm going off somewhere, I'm restarting my life, and leave with a group like the 12 Tribes. And why this was so important is because many witnesses at Electric Forest claim to have seen their double-decker buses there at the festival. So they were there to gather these lost souls. But no one was quite sure exactly how to feel about this. Kevin had smoked weed for a long time. That's already been made very clear. And his friend said there's no way that he, as we know him, would willingly enter a community that is drug-free. And also, despite the fact that he was going through something, people did not believe that he would suddenly change his religious views. That was not something that felt really likely. But his family tracked down the organization because they wanted to check anyways. Now, this organization apparently was very open and forthcoming with his family. They did not have a bad experience with anyone. And the organization claimed they had absolutely no buses or even members at the festival that weekend. So it wasn't them that would have taken Kevin somewhere. But to be sure, his family continued on, and they actually went to one of the communes and showed everyone there Kevin's photo. And while everyone at this commune said that they didn't recognize him, they also said something that made their stomachs drop, that the organization had in fact been at the festival. And so it just seemed like they couldn't really get a clear, confident answer. It kind of felt like, do we trust them or not? But after checking with multiple different members, it just didn't seem likely that Kevin had ended up at any of these communes. They reassured Kevin's family that they do not hold anyone against their will, and that people can come and go as they please, and that safe space is there if they want it, and if not, they can go. And investigators also chimed in on this and said that they have no evidence to suggest that he left to join some sort of organization like this. Now, obviously, this kind of started a trickle effect of other potential organizations or cults or whatever you want to call them. According to the Facebook page, they started to look into the Rainbow family and, the whole shebang, but I am unsure that there was anything to suggest any of this. So for the next few years, Kevin's family basically was just relying on raising awareness for him as much as they could. And one of those things was to go back to the Electric Forest, which I can only imagine was probably the most difficult thing they had ever had to do. Now, his family showed up and put posters at the opening gates. They handed out flyers at the parking lot. They were at the campsites. They were inside of the events handing flyers out to people.
Disappearance remains a mystery to family and friends of Kevin Graves. Today, they were at this year's festival looking for some answers. And 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker spent the day there. He has that story all new at 6.
Family and friends have been handing out flyers all day outside the entrance of the festival, hoping that somebody will know something.
Hi, my uncle went missing from here last year.
Hi, my brother went missing last year. If you could just keep an eye out for him, we would greatly appreciate it.
Some of them stop, some of them don't.
Kevin Graves' sister and her daughter straddled the center stripe of the road
You stand that way, I got this side.
at the festival's south gate.
A lot of these people come to this every single year. I mean, they come far for this electric forest, and most of the people I've talked to, they know this case.
Graves, who is from Oakland County, was last seen with his girlfriend at the music festival last July 1st. His family said the two got into an argument and that Graves left the concert to return to his tent. When Graves' girlfriend went back to look for him, he was gone.
We're never going to give up until Kevin's found. We'll never stop. We will keep doing this until he's found.
My thoughts is that he's alive, and I just hope that he's with somebody that's treating him right, taking care of him.
At the Electric Forest North Gate, Graves' father prepared to go in and hand out flyers to some of the 50,000 festival goers.
We're hoping when we're going through there and passing out flyers that we're going to bump into somebody that might have saw him last year, knows something that went on. Maybe he's in there and we might luck out and find him.
And during one of these instances, they actually got another possible tip. A woman drove up and said, "Hey, I want to see the flyer that you have." And so they held it up and said, "This is, Kevin, he's been missing." And she said, "That is him. That is the guy that we saw." And so obviously they're all like on the edge of their seat trying to figure out, where did you see him? Give us some sort of information. And this woman explained that she and her mother had gone to a restaurant in town. I'm not sure exactly when the time frame of any of this is, but she said they were at a restaurant in town and a young man matching that photo had walked into the restaurant barefoot and obviously on drugs. And he was asking everybody for money and saying that his girlfriend and girlfriend's dad had dumped him there. Now, Shiawassee Search and Rescue, that had been dedicated to helping the family, was hearing this and connected the dots, and they were worried that this was a real possibility. So they immediately went to the restaurant to question the staff, figure out what everyone else had to say, and sure enough, the staff corroborated the exact same story, corroborated, the physical description, absolutely everything. So this seemed huge, but unfortunately, despite these concerning statements, nothing more seemed to come of it. I don't know if they ever located this person, this, girl and her mom were talking about. And then the pandemic hit. Now, unfortunately, this caused a lot of issues for pretty much anyone searching for a missing loved one. Getting people out in numbers that were needed wasn't a big thing. A lot of investigations kind of halted. And unfortunately, one or two of the members of the search and rescue team, the Shiawassee Search and Rescue, passed away. And so the group that had remained so consistent in helping Kevin's family was no longer up and running. His family said that they could not get anyone to replace the leader, but they continued to fight, but unfortunately they just still kept hitting wall after wall. In 2022, when the festival finally came back, they were so excited to go back to the festival, continue raising awareness, speaking to people, because a lot of people recognize the case and, you never know who might have some sort of information. But this time, when they go to set up, they were met by state police serving a cease and desist by the festival, claiming that Kevin's family was causing bad PR and they did not want them walking around the festival or the parking lot or any of it, handing out flyers to try to find Kevin. Obviously, his family was infuriated, devastated, every emotion possible. And while the festival did eventually agree to take some of the posters and put them up at their information centers, his family was so upset that they couldn't personally be there to do more. It felt like all of their efforts just kept being shut down.
But I'm gonna keep trying my best.
Tens of thousands of people are descending on Rothbury for the Electric Forest Festival. But as that electronic music festival returns, another year goes by without answers for the family of Kevin Graves, who went missing 5 years ago.
News 8's Byron Tollefson is in Rothbury, where family is still looking for answers.
The family of Kevin Graves isn't giving up hope that someone knows something about his disappearance. They've put up this billboard right near the entrance to Electric Forest, hoping that as the festival returns this year, it will spark new leads. Nearly 5 years ago, Kevin Graves went missing from the Electric Forest Music Festival in Rothbury.
Sometimes I'll be sitting there in the living room watching TV and I'll just start crying. I'm not ashamed to admit it. because I'm thinking about him. I'm looking at his picture there by the TV, and I just say, where the hell could you be?
They say he was always kind to those around him and dedicated to his family.
He always called his mother every day, and he called his sister every day. He never missed. Wake up in the morning thinking about him, you go to bed thinking about him. I dream about him.
5 years later now, Gary says it seems that leads have dried up, and they rarely hear from law enforcement.
He told us that he thought Kevin was deceased, was the last thing. And whether he is or not, we need to know.
After pushback from the festival, they turned to a billboard this year, clear to see off US 31.
We hope that they see it and they understand that we haven't given up looking for him. And as long as we can go, we're not gonna give up, and we're not going away.
The family also has a Facebook page with more than 7,000 followers dedicated to finding him. They also keep posters on their cars. They say they don't believe in closure because there's never closure. They just want answers.
Just don't forget about Kevin, please.
Now, at this point, the entire area has been searched, including, like I said, 15 some miles along the nearby highway. None of the 400 some people in the nearby town seem to have called saying they know anything or saw anything. So it is felt impossible to get information in regards to Kevin. And to give kind of even more of an idea to people who don't understand much about this festival, it's just very unique. There are dedicated Facebook pages and groups where people that attend this festival can attempt to locate total strangers that they met while they were there. It's the kind of place where you go and you spend like a whole week or weekend camping with people you've never met in your whole life, to the point where you're best friends. You know, you've literally like done everything together, and all you have is this person's first name somehow, or even just a nickname. This festival is kind of a place where anonymity seems to be very appreciated. It's like everyone goes there and becomes one. And so it is totally possible to go to that festival and just blend into the background. And I believe that is a huge reason why the search for Kevin has been so difficult. Now, at this point, it seems that some believe Kevin is no longer alive, including Ellie. It's been so many years, and if he had in fact gone off somewhere, his family is confident enough that he would have reached out. That, I believe, that's probably why they came to this conclusion. But others still believe it's possible he's out there somewhere. And this opinion even changes within Kevin's family itself. I know that Kevin's girlfriend's father has even told reporters that he has his own beliefs in regards to Kevin's disappearance, and he believes that Kevin planned this entire thing. Quote, "He walked away with a plan in mind. I think he purposely did it to make people think he was dead." Backing this up by saying that Kevin at some point implied he had no intentions of returning from the festival. I don't know what Kevin said to make his girlfriend's father think that this was a possibility and believe that he never intended on coming back from the festival. I don't know if this kind of plays into the idea authorities originally had that he wanted to become a part of the lore. Those that know Kevin the best say that does not make sense. They can see absolutely no reason why he would feel the need to do that. He was happy, he was successful, he loved his family. And so the thought that he would just purposely try to make it seem like he was dead, like, that's also something incredibly hard to pull off. And where would he have been this entire time? None of it just seems to make any sense.
The Oakland County Sheriff himself, Bouchard, said, "What the hell are my officers doing with this case in the first place? It shouldn't have ever come here. It should have went to up here to the state police in Rothbury." And we said, "Well, we didn't know. We're just doing what we were told to do." So that's why we went with what we did and reported it to the Oakland County Sheriff.
So is that kind of, play into the fact of why you guys come out here and do this on your own? Because it's like law enforcement it's been a confusing road with them, I guess.
It's been a very confusing road with Oakland County. Now, if they find out about this interview, they'll probably send somebody out to talk to us again. But otherwise, we don't usually hear anything from them unless we call and start complaining. The sheriff's office, that's the officer that's got it, he claims he's doing everything he can. The young lady that was with my son at the time he went missing, she's since got married. The guy that she's married to come over to our house here a few months ago and said that you guys don't know what this woman's like. She's her and I are having problems. but she knows more about what happened to your son than she's putting on. He says she knows how to pass a lie detector test. She's pretty smart. And so I'm just telling you that she's told me that there's so much that we don't know about. I just don't know which way to go. We're at the turning point. What do we do now? State police told us that we should go on TikTok or some of them media stuff. I'm an old man. I don't know that shit. You know, I'm not hip on it. You know, I have a hard time even reading Facebook.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot.
I'm 70. Tomorrow I'll be 78 years old.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's happy early birthday.
Thank you.
So
I know that the lead investigator was questioned in 2019 on the Vanish podcast, and he seems to just kind of have this really nonchalant attitude about it. And if you go and listen to the podcast, you'll know exactly what I'm saying when you hear him talk. It just doesn't seem like he wants to look into any possibility other than the fact that Kevin is an adult and decided to just do whatever he wanted. He did say in that interview that he planned to go over the case from the beginning again, maybe get some fresh eyes on there to see if there was potentially something that they've missed. But so far, I have not seen any updates whatsoever on the case. His father has made public pleas directly to Kevin as well, saying, look, if there is something that's going on, or for some reason you did decide to run, it's okay. They're not there to judge or be upset. They just want to know that he is out there all right somewhere. No one wants to force him to come home if what he wants to do is be out experiencing the world on his own. Again, no one's quite sure if that's exactly what happened. Kevin is 6 feet tall and was of average build when he went missing. He has blonde hair, blue eyes, and also had a beard at the time. He also has a few easily identified tattoos as well. One on his left shoulder with the letters USMC and a spear going through them. This is the tattoo that he got in dedication to his father and grandfather. He also has red lips tattooed on his right hip and an Aquarius sign on his forearm. His family is incredibly active on social media. Of course, it would mean the absolute world to me and Kevin's family if you shared his missing persons flyer, this video, his Facebook page, any of his social media sites where they're talking about him and what happened to help get more eyes on this case to maybe find some sort of answers. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to Kevin's story. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below to become a part of the Howland fam so that we can hopefully bring them home together or bring them justice together. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.